Ooh. Hail, hail! The Celts are here, and sorry for the wee minor delay. I was trying to fix my lighting with daylight savings and everything kicking in. Feels like I need to make a wee adjustment. Not that any of you probably care about that, but anyway, it caused me a slight delay. And it has been all hands on deck this morning. I've been catching up with all the stuff. We've heard a Martin O'Neill interview go out on TalkSport earlier today. We've seen lots of coverage of this. Brendan Rodgers' resignation, the Dermot Desmond statement, and everything else, really since 10 o'clock last night. We did a live stream on the channel. Thousands of you checked it out. Thank you very much to everyone that did tune in. And, one thing that is I've been kind of saying in the offing, kind of highlighted again yesterday and last night, is I've had a little scratch board here. I've had a little notepad of some prospective next Celtic managers that we've been kind of drafting and prepping for a video on the channel for maybe the next international break or maybe after the January window, depending on how Brendan and Celtic were going. And obviously that's brought everything right to the fore. When I was going through the instant reaction and breakdown last night, I could not hide my joy at seeing Martin O'Neill getting back into the Celtic dugout on an interim basis. I've had so much pushback on Twitter and in the comment section on YouTube of just like, Quinny, what are you talking about? Martin O'Neill is a dinosaur and everything else. And like, yeah, okay, fine. But interim manager, someone who's going to parachute in, fall down the chimney today, I don't think it really gets any better. Fingers crossed it does work out. Who knows if it will or not. But that is all with the context that Celtic are now hunting for a permanent manager. I think the best case, the ideal scenario is that we get a new permanent manager in and around the next international window. One of the latest videos we did on the channel was how the next 7 matches were all going to be must-win games. We've played 3 of them already. There's 4 of them to go. As we know, 2 of them are right around the corner. So that'll be the next international break thereafter. The next 4 matches, which, checking the calendar, I'm not too sure. It's maybe like 10 days away or something like that, 12 days. And in and around that kind of time, either going into the window, beautiful, in the window, fine, just coming out the window, whatever. And if it goes any longer than that, then maybe we're having some different conversations and we'll cross those bridges as we come to them. But one of the things I did want to tackle kind of nowish is really who should we be looking at? If I've got a list of Celtic managers, then surely Celtic have got a list. Now, as much as I say surely, and I'll get into the chat, audience participation in this one is very welcome. And was very well appreciated last night, by the way. This was a little clip that came out last night that pricked my ears up, and I thought, I will definitely need to include this in this content when we get to it. So this is Alex Crook. Now, I did mention this, I forget when, it was around Rangers stuff, but he was doing like a Rangers exclusive, talking about the Steven Gerrard thing and all the rest of it. And he said as a kind of footnote, by the way, I have also just received some whispers that Brendan is like eyeing up the Premier League next season. And we spoke about that on the channel, and a lot of you guys were like, talk sport, whatever, which, fine. But this Alex Crook has certainly got sources. And I thought this little soundbite would be very interesting to include.
Celtic as a football club as well. I did mention when I was on with Jim White covering Rangers managerial search a week.
Yeah, so he references that thing. It's not about that. It's the next bit, sorry.
Or so ago that I've been told that Brendan Rodgers was unlikely to sign a new contract when his current Celtic deal was due to expire at the end of the season, but I don't think anybody saw him walking out in such fashion, certainly not the Celtic owners. I'm told there's a mood of panic around Parkhead this evening, as you mentioned, Martin.
There's a mood of panic around Parkhead this evening. When I heard that, I thought that's very revealing. Where we're speaking last night on the live reaction breakdown that I don't think Martin O'Neill, and that's now been confirmed in his interview with Jim White earlier today, had no idea this time yesterday or anything with this was likely. It feels to me, and again, we'll get to this as we get to it, Brendan's resigned. He's not taking a payoff, and I'm hearing rumours and whispers that there's going to be a Brendan retort tomorrow, Wednesday, is when I'm hearing it will come out. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. I'm sure we'll certainly be covering it on the channel as we get to it. But when I heard Alex Crook saying that there was an air of panic around Parkhead in the aftermath of the resignation, that made me think like, yeah, genuinely they've got to kick into gear. It is break emergency class time. And, you know, Martin O'Neill's came out as the emergency class hammer in this case. And fine, I'm way happier with that than, I'm not even going to name the names. We all know who they could have been, and even other ones that, you know, we've had, you know, yeah, we've seen how it's went with other places and all the rest of it. And in terms of interim manager, you're just not, until we see some results that go to the contrary, you're just not going to get me to be upset at Martin O'Neill coming in. Now, to do this sort of content, to do this sort of video, I'm doing it live today. So fist bump to everyone that's joining us live, because it's going to be long. I'm happy to have your interactions and flavor all the discussions that we've got here and editing it and all the rest of it, yada, yada. I just kind of wanted it out sooner rather than later. If you do enjoy the content, especially if you're watching live, get into the live chat, hit the like button, subscribe, please, if you can. That helps a lot to growing the channel and finding more jungle gyms to come and hang out with us, so that when we do this content, we get as well-rounded a feeling from you guys in the chat, as well as, you know, the channel just grows and everyone's happier at that. And if you're watching this after we've been live, of course, feel free to do the same. Of course, get into the comment section after the video's been live and leave what your shout, what your prediction, what your dream, what, you know, anything you want. But feel free to let us know what it is when you're leaving your names and suggestions for the next Celtic manager. And yeah, I'll do my best to try and keep up with all this stuff, but because I've got a kind of topic at hand, I'm quite keen to rattle through it. The first place we're always going to start with this sort of stuff is the free agent list on Transfermarkt. Okay, now we're not going to be spending too much time here, because really a lot of it is quite fanciful. We're not going to be going after Luciano Spalletti or Xavi or anything like that. And to be honest with you, like almost any other time, Thiago Motta and Igor Tudor would have been two managers when they were previously at Bologna or Marseille or Verona. I'm a big fan of, play great football, would be fantastic Celtic managers, make no mistake about it. But both of them have just been sacked by Juve this year. Thiago Motta gets sacked in March and Tudor gets sacked like yesterday as well. So they're probably on like a very generous kind of payoff situation. So that's just not likely. Ange Postecoglou, of course, is the bookies' favourite. And a lot of one of the most regular names that's getting chucked at us here in the chat, as is Marco Rose. We'll be talking about both of those candidates as well. But there's some other ones here that are kind of interesting that we'll talk about in the video at some point. Maybe not John Dal Thomason, but he's certainly a character, if nothing else. Gary O'Neill is in there. Bruno Lage, you know, Adi Hütter, very good manager as well, by the way, but didn't really go too well in Monaco. Don't know if that's the sort of guy we would go for. And if we aren't after a guy like that, I think Marco Rose probably is the top shout here. But one person that it doesn't really feature too highly on anything for anyone, right? And I just thought I would maybe start him off on the conversation, maybe as just kind of like a pace setter as much as anything. And I don't, this isn't me saying, oh, this is my number one pick or anything like that, right? But Celtic manager has to be a winner. Celtic manager has to have the ability to, you know, go into Europe and get results, has to have the ability to work with the tools at their disposal. And you're looking for someone that has kind of been in the same boat that Celtic are in, right? And I think thinking about that base criteria, especially against this list, Erik ten Hag would be a fantastic candidate. Now, it ended very poorly for him at Leverkusen, and we all know about Man United. We don't need to go into that. But his period at Ajax, they won 3 titles, they won all sorts of cups, they got to Champions League semi-finals, they brought through Frankie de Jong and a bunch of other really good players, really nice play style. And overall, like, you might not fancy him, but he did win an FA Cup and a League Cup with Man United. I say 3 Dutch titles, 2 Dutch Cups, Super Cup as well, and I say good runs in Europe with Man United and with Ajax. So if he wants to rebuild his reputation, I think he would be like quite Brendan Rodgers-esque, like first time around, and I could get behind it, you know. So I just want to kind of put him out there in a sense as like the sort of profile person that we're kind of after. We're after someone that wins stuff. We're after someone that knows the course. We're not after, and there is candidates in here that do fulfill this, but we're not after guys that want to cut their teeth at Celtic. You know, we want winners. We want guys that can develop the players that the club already owns and get the most out of anyone that we bring in January, because we need to win straight away. There's lots of chats for lots of people, and we'll get to them all, don't worry. Because the free agent list on Transfermarkt is a bit, you know, fanciful. Well, I thought we'd start off with something just a bit more glamorous. Tudor and Motta, as I say, if we're talking about Make-A-Wish Foundation stuff, they're the sort of guys I would be certainly picking up the phone to if we've got that type of money to be thrown around, which I do not think that we do. This is the betting odds according to Bet365. We'll hit a wee refresh on this in case there's been any movement. Ange was at evens. He's moved away now, so that's kind of nice that we've refreshed it. And I think Ange really does also have that same profile, that same pedigree. But I think the thing with Ange, he's now a Europa League winner. We know about his Japanese wins and winning stuff with Australia before coming to Celtic, as well as his success he had here. But I think Ange is a new challenge guy. Like, I really don't see him coming back. By all accounts, the relationship with him and the board and the club went bad when he left for Tottenham. So I don't think anyone is really going to imagine that this is going to come together, sadly. I think we would all welcome him back. I think he would be fine, but it's just not going to happen. So I just really don't want to waste any energy on it, if I can be honest. So he's installed at favourite, and I think that's just because of early betting and, just the way betting markets work, really. Kieran McKenna, this has actually moved on quite a bit, so I might need to restructure the order that I've got here. But the next manager I had to look at was the second favourite earlier today, and it's one of the most popular names in the chat, and that is Knutson. Now, Knutson always comes up when it comes to Celtic, always. I'm very much undecided with this guy. I kind of, there's no smoke without fire. He has been interviewed by Ajax. He's been interviewed by teams in Germany as well. This guy's been around the block for a while. He's been the Bodo manager since 2018. He's very well reported on and covered their ascendancy through European football. This year, they're in the Champions League. As I understand it, out of his 7 years there, they've won 4 titles, which I think in Norway for a team of Bodo is incredible, of course. But by all accounts, he has some sort of Jackie McNamara deal where any player that Bodo sells, he is getting commission. He's getting commission, So, why has he never went to an Ajax? Why has he never went into the Bundesliga? There's been ample opportunities, ample clubs that would take a manager like this on. Is he too comfy? Is he getting interviewed and then not really? I don't know. There's something missing with Knutson, right? And I think that's unavoidable at this stage to kind of put that out there. Being there for so long is admirable. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's not had opportunities to move on. He's had plenty of opportunities. I think he was the favourite to replace Ten Hag at Ajax, interviewed for it and was maybe all but about to go, and then it didn't happen. So I think it's a non-starter on a few levels. If he got appointed, let's go for it. Let's back him and let's have it. But I don't know. It feels like there's something missing with this guy. That just means it's unlikely to happen. So the now favourite, if I would find him in the order, I put him way high in the order because I actually kind of rate him really highly. But let's keep with so we'll talk about Kieran McKenna kind of last, right? Because I do rate McKenna very highly. Robbie Keane is another name that's kind of circulated around here. Now, Robbie Keane is a manager that has won the Israeli Championship and has won the Hungarian Championship. He has won leagues in 2 different countries. Does certainly divide opinion with Celtic fans. By all accounts, plays decent football. Is Tel Aviv and then Ferencvaros, is that the straight path to being the Celtic manager? I don't know. But winning titles is credentials. I think it certainly gives him some sort of credence in the conversation in the chat, although I don't think he's going to be too high. Because I think at this point in time, with Brendan Rodgers leaving, appointing somebody like Robbie Keane or even Craig Bellamy, it's just not the right time, the right place, I don't think, for these types of appointments, and I just don't see them happening personally. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been linked to the job, and I think, I wouldn't mind Ole. Ole was quite good at Molde. He beat Celtic as Molde manager. We know about Man United. He went to Besiktas recently. It didn't go too well there. And, I wouldn't mind it, to be honest with you. I do think it would be quite a low bar, a low caliber appointment by the board. It would be, he's a free agent. He's got a bit of that Premier League kind of, PR about him and everything as well. So I don't really know particularly how I feel about that. Again, on the betting odds, we do have Gary O'Neill, who I do think is a very good manager, followed the Wolves team that he managed quite closely. And at Bournemouth the year before, he was rather harsh done to be sacked. So a very good coach, a very good manager. But again, I don't think it's, between guys like him and Michael Carrick, who are also featured in the betting, I just don't think they are the sort of people that are really who Celtic need right now, who should be the next Celtic manager. Another person that features quite heavily in the betting is Damien Duff. Now, Damien Duff actually, I think, is a little bit of an unsung hero from, the the last era that we had, pre-COVID, as it were. And I do think, his removal from the background, from the backroom team, was a big domino effect and the wheels falling off for us when he did leave. So by all accounts, a good coach, a good manager. He's won the Irish Championship already. He's without a club at the moment. I do think, again, but this would be quite an uninspiring appointment in the grand scheme of things. One of the most prominent names, again, on the betting is Marco Rose. Now, everyone else on this list, I'm not really going to entertain. The likes of Muscat, Keane, Glasner, Larson, Marco Silva at Fulham. I just don't see that happening. Frank Lampard flying high with Coventry. Hassan Hüttl, I wouldn't mind. He's a free agent right now, a bit of a Red Bull guy, very similar to Marco Rose. Now, Marco Rose, I had some intel come to me from a friend of the channel. He's maybe listening, so Hendo, shout out to you. I'll get your Twitter page on screen in a second, buddy. But he did some digging when we were chatting earlier, because he said Marco Rose, and I was like, oh, I'd love it, but no chance we're going to be paying him. Rodgers was on £2 to £3 million a year. Rose wanted 3.8 to go to Saudi, and he was on €4.5 million at Leipzig. So not totally, and that is at Ross H Scouting on Twitter, on X, at Ross H Scouting. I'll find your page and stick it on, mate. But did some good digging. So actually, budget-wise, wages-wise, isn't a guy that really should be out with our grasp. And this should be the number one target for Celtic. Marco Rose has done very, very well. Again, I watched his Leipzig team very, very closely. I watched a lot of Bundesliga football, but particularly Leipzig, especially when he was in charge. He brought them to the Champions League semi-final. He won a cup for them as well. Leipzig have only won 2 cups. He has won one of them. He's also won a litany of stuff at Salzburg previously to that. Was okay at Borussia Dortmund, did okay at Mönchengladbach, and did pretty well for the most part at Leipzig. It fell apart at Leipzig because they really, like Leipzig and Salzburg, as you know, their whole shtick is unearthing talent and then feeding it back into, the Premier League and other big teams in Germany. And it kind of fell off for him at one point where they just sold too many people and they just hadn't replaced them, and it just kind of ended. He has everything going for him that we want. He's had European experience. He's had domestic dominance with a team like Salzburg, even has that Leipzig aura, which is, again, not too dissimilar to the first time we brought Brendan in when he just left as Liverpool manager, where he's coming from a top 5 league and has those level of expectations and standards that he brings to the squad and gets more out of them as a consequence. And for the sort of wages that he is kind of floating around at, I unequivocally agree this should be the tippy top, the primary target for Celtic, absolutely bar none. Ticks every single box. I do kind of, we use Ten Hag as a kind of opening example, but I do think Marco Rose is the one where he's probably looking to make a move in his career where he can add further glory, further titles, but maybe get closer to England, which certainly Celtic can offer him, which you just need to look at Ange and Brendan when, he went to Leicester off the back of it. Would probably work out quite well. Now, there is a lot of these chanting for, or not chanting, but a lot of these are saying, Martin O'Neill is going to be interim manager till the end of the season. It's going to be kind of setting up Maloney to take over. I just don't see that happening. Everything the board are trying to say, and the reality that they want us to buy into, they have to do something to marry it up with actual reality. And I just don't see any permanent Maloney appointment happening, to be honest with you. So yeah, unequivocally, I think Marco Rose is the top target. But failing that, I think also in the top 3 and is now right up there in the betting is Kieran McKenna. Now, Kieran McKenna is a coach's coach. And if we, we're obviously very upset with how the club is being run and lots of other stuff that we can talk about till the cows come home. And while that's being dealt with, just understanding our position as Celtic fans and supporting the team and what we need to deal with here, the club want to be a modern club in the sense of they want to do the transfers and have a coach that will fashion them together and get them working so they can sell them on for more money. And Kieran McKenna is a coach's coach. There's just no two ways about it. You can very much see it with his Ipswich team that got promoted into the Premier League, was unlucky in some ways to get relegated. He stayed with them. He got a big juicy contract to do so amid interest from former club Man United, where he was the assistant manager there. Now, he does have a couple of years of first team manager experience under his belt, coming on 200 games, being appointed in 2021 with Ipswich. And, this is kind of a halfway ground where he's on a very big contract with Ipswich, so I don't think he'll be cheap necessarily. but he is a guy that, you know, Celtic will probably put like a buyout clause. Like I think we made like 10 million quid off of Ange. I think Celtic would maybe be motivated to try and do something like that with Kieran McKenna, and then you maybe release him back into the Premier League after a couple of seasons of success at Celtic. And so I could see him being right in the frame for it. And he's featured very high in the bet, and he's moved all the way up to 4-1 here, overtaking Sean Maloney and Martin O'Neill. Could Martin O'Neill get the job on a permanent basis? I don't think so. After hearing his interview today, like he knows he's in here for a good time, not a long time. And that's fine by me. As I said earlier, for interim manager, like really what more could we want or wish for, pray for? And yeah, as I say, outside McKenna, Knutson kind of makes sense because of all the chat around him, and Marco Rose. The rest of the betting odds here is quite uninspiring. Scott Brown, it's not the time for. Neil Lennon, Long, Southgate, whatever, you know, like it's just none of these things are going to happen. Now, a lot of these managers, Marco Rose and Kieran McKenna and one or two of these other people, all featured in the lists that I'd kind of made up, including Igor Tudor, in fact, and Thiago Motta in previous years. And there's a few more that I'm not going to like feature. I'll kind of take a breath and we'll get the chat involved in a moment. But out of all the names I had, for ones that didn't come into the reckoning in the video today, and then kind of just weighing up where we're at right now, if we had to put somebody in situ today, somebody I'd be happy to be, like I said his name, you know, I'm not going to just put some jabroni down, some no-hoper, and even some guys that I think like aren't no-hopers, but are just similar to like we looked at Carrick, O'Neill, you know, they're just not ready. It's just not the time for that type of appointment. So I tried to do a further filter on it. But I'm saying Marco Rose and Kieran McKenna should be the top two people interviewed. Really, regardless of all of that, I would still say probably the number 3 person on the list should be Inigo Perez. Now, Andoni Iraola has been getting lots of praise and all the rest of it for his time at Bournemouth. He got a lot of love and a lot of praise in La Liga for his time at Rayo Vallecano. I also watch a lot of La Liga, and to be honest with you, Iraola's Vallecano were not a good watch. They won games and stuff like that, and they played well, and they did really well for everything, right? But I don't know. I wasn't mad for it. They've done very well at Bournemouth. I think he's developed. I think he's getting more out of different players, and you can see maybe him in his fullest at Bournemouth. He's doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. Inigo Perez is who stepped in to replace him, and I'm telling you, this Vallecano is way better than Iraola's Vallecano. No, unequivocally. They attack much better. They score more goals. They win more matches. They're in Europe now, you know, and this guy is a fantastic manager on the sidelines as well. At 37, you know, this is one that kind of is maybe board generous in the sense of like wouldn't be too expensive. It could backfire though. Like you know, let's take moving to Celtic is a huge move. Changing country, a league he's never been associated with, would be huge. Same thing can be said about a lot of people, I suppose, but I would definitely want this guy interviewed. No two ways about it. And I think, again, if you want a little bit of that Ange factor, which I've definitely tried to build into my next shout, which I'll get to in a second, you know, I've been crying out for us to shop in Spain. And if we hired a guy like this and gave him 20 million quid and said, go and get us 3 guys from wherever you want, Spain or whatever, like I'd be super happy with probably anyone he would bring in. And I think they would hit the ground running. And for us being Europa League this year, it's a nice kind of warm up to if we did have him and we rescued the season, to him getting ready to take that further step up to Champions League next year. But the lack of experience at that level is why I do have Perez and McKenna firmly behind someone like Marco Rose, who really does have every box ticked right behind, right in front of Ten Hag and maybe one or two others. But if we're going to, if what you're craving as a Celtic fan, if what the board think we want as Celtic fans is another Ange, another guy that comes out of the wilderness of football and comes in and hits the ground running, brings in some players, gets us playing, has some, you know, like different angle of approach that catches everyone off guard and all the rest of it, I would look no further than Wilfred Nancy. Now, MLS has got a few coaches in it that I would put into this conversation. I'm going to spare you from the other two ones because I just don't think this is the time or the place for them, really. But Wilfred Nancy is a MLS champion with Columbus. They play 3-4-3 for the most part. Now, Columbus were super dominant when they won the league. And don't get me wrong, there has been some dominant teams in MLS over the last couple of years. Messi's Miami, Seattle, Atlanta, even LAFC when they had like Bale and stuff like that in their inaugural season. But none of them have got to the levels that Columbus got to without a star. The Columbus team like had some big, like some guys that they spent a lot of wages on and stuff like that, but no name that you would know in their team, no designated player, no household European, South American talent that's going over there. And before being at Columbus, he was at Montreal, a very unfancied team, and he got a great shift out of them. Great. This is a guy that I think if you parachuted him into Lennoxtown tomorrow, would have us playing in no time. Could he handle everything else that goes around Celtic? That's the big question mark, and it's the same question mark we put on all the players that we discuss on the channel. Is can they be that character? Can they make that step up? This is a guy that I think's got a good shot at doing that. I don't think he should be the top candidate. He's not like, oh, this is my pure favourite. But if we were to get another Ange type appointment, this is a guy for me. I think he's fantastic. And I think, again, that winning mentality, it's a guy who's won something. MLS is a low-level league and all the rest of it. And I know what most people's opinion is of it, and that's all fair game and all the rest of it. But it's not an easy thing to win. It's very hard to win. It's a very long season, lots of travel, and especially if you don't have Javinkos, Bales, Carlos Velas, Messi, Suarez. If you don't have those types of players to win the whole thing, is noteworthy, So I would definitely have him in the reckoning somewhere. So that's everything I've kind of got here. I'm just going to put the betting odds back on and see what you guys will have. We refresh on this, and we'll bring in some thoughts from you guys in the chat. Any of the shouts I've made, feel free to critique them. If you've not done so already, please do smash the like button and get into the live chat and let me know your thoughts and feelings on everything we've discussed. Who is linked, who is in the betting odds, the free agent market, maybe one or two of the shouts I've put out there. Let me know, and I'll try and scour through the chat. There's a bunch here. I think this is one of the biggest shows we've did in a while, by the way. So thanks to everyone that is joining live. Kieran McKenna by Roy Keane, that would be interesting. I don't mind Roy Keane as an assistant type figure. Bielsa would be interesting. And Ian, I see your comment there. That's maybe true, but I'm just trying to be as like non-confrontational about everything, like just even basic, like even if you just accept it's a super hard league to win. Like I think MLS is good. There's turmoil everywhere, by the way. No, Brown Warrior, I'm seeing that chat everywhere, by the way. The Rockies had one good game for Hanover. You know what I mean? And Welsh is doing all right for Motherwell. Is that a surprise that he's doing all right for Motherwell? I don't know. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. Just to get the train back on the tracks, Kieran. Just to get the train back on the tracks. McKenna is a blue nose. Okay, well maybe that changes things. I don't know, but we should go all out for David Pleat. Love that. Tuchel, you're not going to get him out the England job. You're not going to get him out the England job at this point. The contract he's on will be incredible. Now, the St Mirren manager, I think, like, not now. Like, imagine we appoint Stephen Robinson, like, could be a Celtic manager, like, in the making or something, but he would need to earn his stripes in the Championship in England or find himself on the continent somehow, somewhere, and do something. He's not going to go St Mirren Celtic. Celtic are not going to hire the St Mirren manager. It's just kind of fact of life, sadly for him. But I do agree that domestically, he would be the best candidate. Like, yeah, if you were to look at the domestic division, maybe the Hibs guy. So Terzic isn't really in the betting now. He was on the free agent list on Transfermarkt. Now, Terzic is like a top quality coach. And if you don't know Terzic, he was like a coach at Dortmund, assistant manager and all the rest of it. And he came in as like an interim manager, and then they kept him. I can't remember if he won anything. Yeah, he did. He won the cup. So he won the cup with them. And I think he took them quite far in the Champions League when maybe he took over from Marco Rose, actually, I think, funnily enough. And he did well. He's not took a job since. He has got technical director experience as well. Yeah, that was his job, and then he kind of stepped in. If he was up for it, by the way, it would be a great appointment, but this is a guy you need to give a lot. He's got technical director kind of nous. You kind of need to give him a bit more than he needs to be a manager, not a head coach type guy. And that's, again, similar to Ten Hag. and Marco Rose, see getting a bit of Ajax, see getting a bit of Red Bull in the building, and not necessarily like steal, but learning the processes and the protocols that these guys go through, having our staff that the club is always going to maintain to some extent. I know John Kennedy and a few others have just left, but that's how you learn from these other appointments of managers and stuff like that. You bring new cultures in, you try and pick up some things and you kind of build them into your own. And that's how you evolve with the times, which Celtic don't seem to do. So Terzic, I think, would be a top appointment. I just don't really think coming to Celtic is really on the cards for him. From us approaching him being, I don't know, like maybe by the way, it'd be a good job for somebody like him. Win some trophies, get some Champions League experience again. I could certainly see it if we approached him being interested. Because he's quite a cool guy. Since he's not been working at Dortmund, he's often seen in the stands like a fan, So like he's 42. He's a young enough guy in that regard, and yeah, maybe somebody we should have in the chat, I suppose. And yeah, Bellamy, and again, whatever you want to say about Robbie Keane, there's little things there, but I don't think they're the right people at the right time, really, at the moment. The Motherwell guy, maybe it's a bit early for him also. Played Joe McManus. Any alpha, any insight from that? But where will the Celtic board land? Because we do have, like, there's a mixed amount in the chat, and I think from all Celtic fans, on pessimism and optimism. Optimism that maybe we could get a good candidate in as manager who could just like make lemonade out of all the lemons that we've got here. And then there's that fear that they give it to, like, all due respect, like a Scott Brown or a Bellamy, Damien Duff. If it's going to be like a negative appointment, I think Damien Duff is like probably the best, isn't he? In some ways, I don't know. Kieran McKenna seems like a positive appointment. There's a lot of neutral ones here. I've seen like your Gary O'Neill's, your Michael Carrick's. I just don't see that happening. I think we're kind of above appointing these types of managers. We need guys that know how to win stuff. That's a big criteria. Rafa Benitez has just been appointed as manager. Who was it? They play in green and white. I tweeted because Rangers wanted Rafa. I tweeted Rafa is great. Panathinaikos maybe, or maybe a Mexican team. But Rafa's just signed up with a team that wear green and white. I think it's Panathinaikos. Klopp doesn't want to go back to management. He's very happy being a consultant at Red Bull. Jose is just taking over at Benfica. And actually, the guy that's just taken over Jose's job at Fenerbahce would have been my tippy top pick, Domenico Tedesco. Yeah, Panathinaikos. I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah, exactly. I think there's enough guys available where we're not really having to stretch the imagination too far to find guys like Marco Rose, like Ten Hag, even to maybe even the least extent, even your Solskjaer types. Like Solskjaer's Molde won that Europa League group. The Europa League group was us, Salzburg, Leipzig, Molde, and Marco Rosa would have been in that group. That's going to be how can we find that group, by the way? Because maybe Ranić would have been one of the managers. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Solskjaer and Rosa would have been involved for Salzburg and Molde in that group. Who was the Celtic manager then? Was that a Rodgers group? Is that happening as well? Roger Schmidt, by the way, Adam McCrory is a great shout. Is it with a D you spell that? I don't think it is, but I'll put it in case you're right. Roger Schmidt. No, it's not with a D. It didn't really work out great at Benfica. They weren't too happy with him by the time it ended, but he was a huge appointment for them when they brought him in. And I think they expected better of him. Yes. It says here, oh no, this is his player profile, beg your pardon. Oh, he's in Japanese football as some sort of sports director for Japan now. Portuguese champion, Dutch Cup winner, Austrian champion, Austrian Cup, Dutch Super Cup. Let's open this page up, see all of his honours. But yeah, I would take him. A very expensive man, but very expensive man. He's got that China money. He's back in Japan, getting some of that Japan money. I would certainly be up for taking Roger Schmidt. I just don't think, again, Celtic have got the budget. This guy gets paid. This guy would want paid a lot. Let's look at that honours list that he's got racked up. So he's won a Portuguese championship with Benfica, a Dutch Cup with PSV, no Dutch title, but he did get a Super Cup. Got a Chinese Cup when he was there, so fair play. The guy does win. There's no escaping that. Won lesser divisions with the lesser team in Munster. Austrian Cup with Salzburg, champion with Salzburg. He would be great. Again, I don't really think in Europe, Champions League or Europa League, I don't think he's really got a run under his belt. And I think that was a big part of the problem with Benfica, is they never got going in Europe. So Farioli is the manager of Porto at the moment. Oh, imagine they brought Ange and Santa on the bench. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, that there's the whole. It's like, it's kind of like Ange leaving Tottenham, and then how much money did Tottenham spend this summer? They went mental on buying players. No, it's not been cut, because I think he was linked to the Man United job. They paid him more money to stay, Liam. So he's on a Liam McKenna's on a big contract. Yep, agreed. Surely we're saying to them, like, if we say to Marco Rosa, you've got 30 million in January. Let's go, man. Let's go. Marco Rosa, 20 million in January. Whatever. We're 15 million up this year before you shoot me down on that one. Marco Rosa, here's 30 million and give 2 fingers to Brendan. Go on. That's probably the best we could hope for out of the club at this point, isn't it? Pure revenge. Graham Potter has just been appointed as Sweden manager. And so if we're going from Marco Rosa and 20 to 30 million in the transfer window, what's the opposite end of that scale? Is it maybe a Damien Duff or a Robbie Keane and maybe 10 million in the transfer window and a couple of loans? Now, Big Come On, Big Come On isn't a bad manager. Rangers are minging. Rangers are really minging. He did make it way worse, but he definitely showed he's not upper elite class in Europe, but to win the league and to win leagues in Belgium, he did all right in Monaco before they bagged him. Well, maybe he didn't, but I don't think he was terrible. Terrible. He was just it's just Rangers, man. What do you expect? Do you think there's any chance use the next few games as a trial? No, I don't see that, man. So many people are saying this. I don't think Maloney is for that whole the board, the Desmond, the Hart, all the public humiliation, all the headlines, everything that's going on right now. How can they? How can they? Opposite end of the scale is Maloney. Yeah, that is opposite end of the scale, isn't it? Is we Maloney O'Neill to the end of the year, and we don't sign anyone because of it, Now, Rodgers, I'm kind of on the fence with, right? Because I've been a big Rodgers guy over the years, but seriously, the way, and Liam, you're one of them, but regular viewers of the channel will know, I do hold Zagreb and Bruges against them as massive bottle jobs, points dropped, opportunity missed, that could have changed our whole Champions League outlook. Those are games. Zagreb had their second or third choice goalkeeper in. They were missing 5 players. And yeah, Bruges was the Carter Vickers OG is what decided it, but they were a good team and stuff, but we had the beating of them if we went for it, but we don't know how to go for it under Rodgers. We only have one gear. And this year, all the chickens have came home to roost in terms of the ineptitudes of what the team has been drilled into doing. And yeah, so I'm kind of with you. I like Rodgers, and I hope there's not a reality check from us in that regard. But I really don't think he was pulling his weight coaching wise, really, for the last certainly 2 months. Roy Keane at 51 deserves a tenner. I don't know about that, mate. Give me your tenner. Yeah. Young Boys wasn't exactly. Oh, McKenna has dropped in the odds now. He's down at 3-1. As it stands, Knutson's moved out to 10s. I don't think there's really been much change elsewhere besides. Hasenhüttl kind of comes into this conversation again if you're after, like, again, he's another one of these former Red Bull acolytes. I wouldn't mind someone like him. He's maybe on that kind of bad end of a board appointment because he's like free, he's cheap, he's not really super won anything. Mikey Johnson. Now, I don't doubt that there's a really high chance that the board still somehow will come out either the January window or the season as a whole with Celtic having made money in the transfer window. It's definitely not impossible, but even with that, surely we're still spending like 20 mil this summer, this January, because if Dyson leaves, and I'm imagining Bernardo leaves personally, that could change now. Maybe Bernardo and Brendan had a rift, but I imagine Dyson leaves and +1. The +1 for me is Bernardo. I could see it being Ali Johnson if he could stay fit, but I don't think that's going to happen for him now. He'll want to just get into World Cup mode for Canada, just with how disrupted his season has been as well. So so again, how much you sell those one or two guys for? Does someone go out on loan? Oh, by the way, Christophe Gaultier. Now, this would be like, by the way, this guy is brilliant. I watched Lille for a fair amount under Christophe Gaultier, and this guy is a boss. This guy is a manager. He's at Neom right now. Oh, he's in the Middle East, so he's probably getting paid a wedge, man. He took over at PSG, didn't do too good, but he won the title with Lille. And this guy's a really good manager, like a really good manager. Like it would be a good Celtic manager. It's probably the best way of putting it. He won a cup with Saint Etienne. He's won a cup with Al Doulali or whatever, and winning the league with PSG. Do we really count that? I don't know. But he won the league with Lille against PSG when they had like Messi and stuff like that. So, yeah, Gaultier would be cool. I just don't see him being anywhere in the frame whatsoever. But nice name to add into the conversation. And yeah, Wu-Tang in the house indeed. I was listening to about a big pun before I come on. That's a good one. That's a good one for sure. And that's something we already spoke about earlier in the stream, Alfie. If you want to scroll back, we kind of went through the main runners and riders on the free agent page on Transfermarkt, as well as the main ones in the odds markets. Terzic is now in the frame. The 20-1 edition has been added in there. I don't know if he was there before and I just missed it, perhaps. And yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. Like, so there's like the dream scale, and then there's the reality, and then there's, you know, where are we going to find ourselves? Because the bandwidth on managers, it's the same with players in the transfer window. It could be absolutely bloody anything. Yeah, I don't think it's the time for Scott Brown. But again, like somebody like Scott Brown, you never know, it could work. But again, it would just, I don't know how they do. I don't know how they stand their ground in this like fight they're going to have with Brendan and then appoint Scott Brown. Like, I just don't think that marries up with the reality they want to give us, you know. Yeah, I do feel that, and that's what they were. That we all, not that. Sorry, this one. I feel that. I think we all feel. Don't get carried away. We're going to get something very deflating or something uninspiring. You know, I think we all feel that. Roberto Martinez, I don't want anywhere near Celtic. By the way, like I personally, Roberto Martinez for me, I just can't. I just can't go him. I just can't go him. Swansea did good, fine, in League One or whatever. He was Swansea manager, and at Wigan, like, see, because like Pep at the time, this is just me, right, in my head, right? But Pep at the time was at Barca, and he was trying to play like Pep with Wigan. He speaks perfect English. He's played his whole career in English football. He played a bit in Scotland, as we know. His wife's Scottish, and all the rest of it, fine. And I just felt that the media in England adored him for trying to play this way with Wigan. They eventually go on to beat Man City in the FA Cup, which Sean Maloney crosses it in for a Watson last-minute header at a set piece. Fine, it's a cup win. But see, from there, honestly, like it's one of these things where people fail up the way in a weird way, where he's just about, man, if he doesn't come out of Wigan with that FA Cup, he doesn't get the Everton job. When he takes over at Everton, David Moyes has been Everton manager for how long? That team could defend till they were blue in the face. Martinez comes in, teaches them how to score goals. They have one good season, and then after that, it just falls off a cliff. Everton fans will tell you it was one good season, and after that, it was a downhill spiral. It was what we've just had with Brendan Rodgers, like talking the good game, but absolutely doing nothing on the pitch. The golden generation of Belgium was put into his hands. He's now the Portugal manager. Honestly, I just don't know how this guy. They do play, like, does teach teams how to play good football and all the rest of it, but like, he has like good media, good PR. For me, I just can't. I just can't go him. I just don't see him. You've got to respect a guy with trophies and medals around his neck, so I don't want to throw too much shade his way, but I don't ever want him the Celtic manager, and I don't think I'll change my mind on that. Personally. Celtic's share on the stock exchange back up to 180. Yeah, there's a connection. The idea that Martin O'Neill will get us winning. Like, I think we're way more likely to rescue the situation we're in with Martin O'Neill steadying the ship, as long as we act fast and get a proper new manager and not. So again, you've got to think we're 8 points behind Hearts. We can't be doing Roy Keanes and Damien Duffs. We need to get a Marco Rosa, a Kieran McKenna, someone that can come in, knows what to do straight away, knows what to do. Santonio Maria, that's not a name I'm familiar with. I think it's a joke, so I'm not going to check it up. No, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so. None that I've came across. I think there's like 2 other guys in America I would talk to you about, but I don't think I would appoint them anywhere near this situation. So I'm not going to waste my breath with them, really. We've went through some really interesting ones. So I guess to summarise, my top shout in terms of like is available, is within the budget Celtic have, and is the absolute profile of everything we want. The top person we should be phoning is Marco Rose. I think right behind him, maybe Ten Hag is a guy worth phoning, because he really does need a rebound appointment after the Leverkusen thing, alongside Kieran McKenna, just for exactly like what, like, as a head coach, a guy that will come in and get the team playing football very quickly, very effectively, at a very high level. I think he's a very good, ambitious appointment. He does seem a bit more like asset acquisition for the club, though, as I mentioned earlier. And for me personally, Inigo Perez is somebody that certainly should be looked at and interviewed for the job, because, again, a very up-and-coming manager. And if you want to think about someone who could really come in and lift the quality of the play that we've got, get the most out of the players we have at the moment, and has a real desire and a real ambition that is infectious and could carry us through the next kind of little wave, because that's a bit of the Ange energy. That would be my kind of, I suppose it's a top 4, because I keep mentioning Ten Hag just because of his track record. And then in 5th, my kind of Ange wildcard shout is Wilfred Nancy, for everything he's kind of done, bringing a team with no superstars to being dominant, and I mean hyper dominant, in a league that doesn't really promote, or isn't really conducive to that type of style of play being successful, or a team running away with it as much as they did. And that's what we need. We need somebody that can come in and form a winning powerhouse that can win every week, game after game, in really tough conditions. If you want to think about, traveling the away grounds and the fixture pile up that we have, like, Nancy's done that, so he would be my Ange shout, if you wanted the wild card from the Mongolian outer league, or whatever it was that was said in the chat. And then I think we all feel that we're not going to get any of those guys. We're going to get something else that's going to be like a bit more Damien Duff, Robbie Keane, maybe even Gary O'Neill or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think, it's a weird one. I really don't know. But personally, that's how I see it. That's where it sits with me. There's been about 300-400 of you live with us today, so I really do appreciate that. Thanks to everyone that has tuned in. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the subscribe button. Now, I've got a secret video for you, by the way. I've got a secret video. I'll show you where it is, in case you want to watch it. If you've clicked on this video, you're after a beginner's tutorial. Shut up. Where is it? Sorry, so I'll need to find actual CeltsAreHere channel. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. We're going to be going into the matrix there, so we'll quickly skip by that. If you go into the actual channel homepage and you look at posts, we've got a hidden video. Now, I already recorded a Celtic v Falkirk preview, before Brendan quit. So it's a little bit antiquated, but I do spend a good bit of time in the video talking about how to get the most out of the team that we've got available for Wednesday night. So some good chat in there and some good kind of preview content in case any of you are after it. It is only available by clicking on the link that's here. I'm not going to release the video. It's not going to be published, but it is sitting unlisted, which means if you have the link to it, which is here, you can watch it. You can go back and watch it later. It's not going to go anywhere, but we're not like releasing it because it's just pointless. Yeah, so if you want a wee bit of Falkirk preview action, check that out. There's probably going to be a lot of content coming out thick and fast on the channel, whether it be following on from this one, looking at maybe some sort of shortlist maybe the club comes out with, or we see some people get approached for interviews, that sort of thing. But for who is available right now, some great suggestions come in from the chat. I'm very thankful for all of them. Some people I would like to put into the frame, and who the bookies have got installed as the early favourites. I think we've done a good job of kind of touching on a lot of that. And I think after we see the Falkirk match, we can then start to chat about tactics and how maybe O'Neill and Maloney are going to get the team firing in the interim period, in the immediate term. And yeah, looking forward to it, guys. It's sure to be a whirlwind. Thanks for all the support. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the subscribe button for more content like this. If you did enjoy the stream live or after we've been live or whatever, please do hit the like button. And when I end the stream, the comment section will open. And that's where to leave your suggestion, your shout, your gut feeling, whatever it might be, your dreams, your nightmares on who's going to be the next Celtic manager. I look forward to checking out the comments, and I'm sure we'll pick up on them as well in due time. Hail, hail, and on the hoops.